Hi, kids. It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. It's time for another edition of 10 to 1, the arbitrary list show from all sorts of movies and whatnot. And I'm Josh, joined as always by the ever lovely and talented Jen.
Hi, the ever sleepy Jen.
Well,
I'm sure that this podcast is going to wake me right up, though.
it'll be like
Almost
a
like throwing cold water on something.
son of a. Excuse me. I was just like, I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to get the water in the face pit. Just going to do it. And you beat me to it.
No, too fast. Too slow. Sorry.
I'm a dad. Dad jokes are my birthright.
Apparently, I'm not as sleepy as I thought I was, cause I beat you to the punch.
Yeah, you're on top of that one. Speaking of water to the face, Jen, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, tonight we decided to do our list of our top 10 movies at sea. Now, we said nautical movies, but some of my movies are not necessarily like nautical. They don't really involve. Do they all involve boats? I guess most of mine involve boats, but they didn't have to involve boats. They just needed to be at sea. And most movies at sea have at least a boat or two in them. I have to say that I made this list almost right after our last podcast. Put it together, thought it was great, went back and revisited it, changed a couple things, changed a couple more things, changed a couple more things. All of a sudden, I would say maybe a day before this podcast, I had rearranged my entire list. I have entirely new movies. I hope you are as entertained by them as I am. So that's what we are doing today.
I got to be honest, I might have brought up the wrong list because nautical and
Oh,
naughty sound so similar.
well, they do, but I don't think I actually know enough movies at sea that are naughty. So that might be a short list.
Okay, let's see what I can do. Okay, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
Well, so I do want to say one thing about this list. Um, I actually really love nautical fiction. Specifically, I love fiction that involves boats and the sea and the way that people navigate the sea, the way that people use the sea for either their betterment or it acts as an enemy or whatever. There's always something amazing about the way that human beings respond to the open ocean. And sometimes it's really inspiring and sometimes it's absolutely terrifying. And I feel like my list actually has a little bit of everything in it. I don't know. What about yours, Josh?
I'd like to think my list is kind of eclectic.
Yeah?
It has a lot of adventure. It's got some comedy. It's got some scariness. So I think for the first time in a bit, I'm gonna be shooting buckshot here tonight. It's gonna be all over the place.
All right. Well, why don't you start us off? What is your number 10 movie?
It's funny you should bring up my number 10 movie because it's one that I personally find mid level at best. I know, weird, right? It's like one of your top 10 movies is not that great. It's true. It's true. But I will explain why that is. Why 2002, directed by Steve Beck, Ghost Ship landed on my
Oh,
list.
you know what? Ghost Ship was on my original list. So, good choice.
Is it though?
Yes. It is a good choice. Oh my god. Ghost Ship is okay, first of all, Ghost Ship is very culty.
Hmm.
Second of all, the opening scene to Ghost Ship is cited by almost every single horror aficionado that I know as being the perfect opening horror scene.
It
So,
is amazing. That opening scene is the only reason it landed on my list. And there is something to be said about a stellar opening to a movie. it I'm not saying that it makes the entire movie great. Like you said, it's cult. It has its following, um, but getting that opening the first time I saw it, and it kind of came out of nowhere. No one warned me about that.
And
It was a beautiful moment, right? Just people dancing on the deck, and then
especially the
snap.
little girl.
Yeah, who, I guess thankfully hadn't hit her growth spurt yet.
Ugh.
It's
I mean, I shiver just thinking about it.
it is gruesome to its core and absolutely worth that number 10 spot just for the opening alone.
I couldn't agree with you more, honestly. That movie has a very I'm telling you, it was actually on my list. And then when I rearranged my list, I didn't have space for it. So, but I'm glad you picked it. Very glad.
Let's say hi to Ben, who said he's lurking with us here tonight.
Hey. Let us know if we come across any movies that you disagree with, like you think they're really terrible nautical movies, Ben. Okay. My number 10 movie is a movie I'm not surprised that very few people have actually seen. Um, in fact, when I mention this person's name, they know of him, but I have to really like reach into the archives to get movies that people will go, "Oh yeah, okay, I know who it is now." Robert Redford was in a movie recently called All Is Lost. Now, All Is Lost is kind of it, it's a little bit it's so personal drama that it's hard to walk into the movie and like don't be expecting that there's going to be massive amounts of actiony things happen, but there are actiony things happening because he is okay, so basically what happens is he's on a sailboat. He's been sailing for a while. He collides with a shipping container, and he can't there's a lot of things that end up happening that basically prevent him from being able to use the ship the way that it's supposed to be. So he tries to, jerry rig a bunch of things. He is extremely MacGyvery about everything. So he finds all of these different ways to try to do things, but his best efforts are often thwarted by the ocean. And it's so interesting. I think in a lot of ways the ship becomes kind of like a Swiss Army knife for him, but the most interesting thing that I found about this man versus nature kind of idea is that you know there comes a moment when he realizes it's just hopeless. It's just hopeless. And that moment is so powerful. And anyone who knows Robert Redford knows, this guy, he is an amazing actor, absolutely amazing. The performance itself is worth a spot on the list, but the all of the nautical thematic elements make this the perfect choice for my number one, or I'm sorry, for my number 10. So that's what it is. All is Lost. It was released in 2013. Stars Robert Redford.
Now, I will say I have heard of it,
Hmm.
and it's been on my watch queue for a very, very long time. And I'm not
It's
actively avoiding it. It's just I haven't gotten around to it yet.
it's very good, but it's not the kind of movie that you want to watch on an active Saturday night, with the kids or whatever. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
really the kind of movie that, like, yeah, you watch it in your down and alone time because yeah, that's the kind of movie it is. So I get it.
So I will definitely be checking it out. By the way, just so you folks listening at home know, last week when Jen mentioned a certain book, what book was that?
Oh, the the dreaming. No, wait, what was it? Hold on a second. I will tell
Tree?
you. It was the tree that when you feed it, you have to tell it lies in order for it to grow, and then it grows the truth the inside of the fruit, it grows this unexpected sort of truth, and then that grows from there. So the better that you lie to it, the better the fruit is, the more powerful the lie from the tree is.
Well, it came in the mail today.
Ooh.
I said I ordered it, and in the morning I will be, reading it, starting to read it. So I look forward to telling you what I think about the story.
Oh, I'm super excited to hear what you have to say about it. I mean, truly, it is a very, very good story. Very good story.
Speaking of good stories, I guess we can move on to my number 9.
All right. What's your number 9?
I'm just going to say it. Directed by James Wan, 2018, Aquaman.
Really? You picked Aquaman? The
I
low
picked
hanging fruit.
Aquaman.
Okay.
It was
All
there.
right.
I picked it. And it could be one of the best things to come from this whole DCEU, to be honest. It was. No, that's not a high. That's not high praise. But when I think movies about water, essentially, how can I not think of Aquaman, the prince of Atlantis, that is forced to become king, to face his responsibilities to his kingdom and his family.
Truth.
When he's just, I mean, let's face it, he's like a dude, right? He just wants to be, it's just like, he just wants to be Superman's bro. He's like, dude, we're going to like save the world. Okay, that's not quite Jason Momoa, but
I was just going to say that. Okay.
It's the fact that they took underwater and made pretty good fight scenes that I'm going to say that it excited me to see Aquaman. And now, if what I'm not mistaken, James Cameron is stealing that idea and using it for Avatar 2.
Yeah.
So, hey, what do you
could
know?
go wrong?
Avatar 2 is almost like another movie. Who would have thought?
Almost. Almost. Not quite, but almost. We'll see.
We will see. Oh, I won't see. I don't watch Avatar movies. Not because I'm against them. I've just seen them already. What they're called, Fern Gully and Dances with Wolves and all sorts of other things. But and as far as Aquaman's go, the tale of Arthur Curry is an intriguing one compared to the rest of the Zack Snyder Justice League. Yet Superman, who is just really a jerk. He made his mom work at Sears.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get over that. Batman, what's your superpower? I'm rich. Yeah, that's Batman, all right.
No, it's the deep gravelly voice, of course.
And I love Batfleck. I was on board day one. As soon as they said Ben Affleck is Batman, I'm like, Ben Affleck loves Batman. He's going to do this character right. And for the most part, yeah, fine. Gal Gadot, whatever the hell her name is, she did fine as Wonder Woman. I have no qualms. Wasn't a fan of Wonder Woman 84, but that's because for some reason they took the Wonder Woman character and ran it through a cheese factory. That and let's face it, she slept with an unwilling participant, and that's no bueno.
Yeah.
So that leaves Aquaman basically being the one guy with a story that you can kind of get behind as he's trying to rediscover his Atlantean roots. And I don't mean like Atlanta, I mean Atlantis. Big difference. Less Ted Turner in Atlantis. But that's my number 9.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, I wouldn't argue with it, but I do love Jason Momoa. But I'm from Hawaii, and it's obligatory. I have to love Jason Momoa. Mm-hmm. So, no, that's not true. I actually really love Jason Momoa. Ask anybody. Okay. My number 9 is the 1990s uh retelling, because it was such a fun time, of the Cold War, The Hunt for Red October. I saw this movie in the theater. I absolutely loved it. I was so enamored with every part of it. I felt like it was one part mystery, one part thriller, one part teach me all about sonar and whales, cuz I'm sure that's going to come up someday. Um I I, I got to say, for I really don't like reading Tom Clancy. Um for lots of reasons. But The Hunt for Red October, uniquely as a film, absolutely killed it. Part of it is Sean Connery. Part of it, I think, is just the pacing of the movie is just so spot on. It's just you never really get a chance to catch your breath before the next big thing happens. And I loved that because, you have dueling submarines under the water, and how are you going to tell that story? And they did it so brilliantly. Absolutely, positively loved it. I feel like this movie is one of those, movies that's kind of like on my list. If you needed to watch a movie over and over again, could you? And I really could watch The Hunt for Red October very often. I believe it was released in, yeah, it was released in 1990, but it was the date for when when the captain set out, was 1984. So it was kind of cool. I did really like it. I just thought it was really cool. So that's my number 9.
It's weird that when it comes to signature franchises, we know the Jason Bournes, we know the James Bonds, but we don't really hear a lot of
Jack Ryan's.
Jack Ryan.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think part of the reason that we don't is because we've had so many different iterations of Jack Ryan, and a
Hmm.
lot of people will know Harrison Ford in Patriot Games and in Clear and Present Danger, and that also is those are Jack Ryan movies, but we don't associate them because they are completely different actors. And I have to say that I think Hunt for Red October was kind of it was a strange uh injection into the Jack Ryan series, because although it definitely was Jack Ryan and you can tell it was, um there was something about the way that this movie was shot and directed that made it feel like it was less about Jack Ryan and more about the actual events that were happening. And that, I think, is what made it infinitely more watchable, say, than Patriot Games, which I wasn't a huge fan of. So,
Don't forget the Sum of All Fears.
oh, and The Sum of All Fears. That's right. That's right.
That was
I mean, see,
Affleck, wasn't it?
you know what? I think so. Wasn't James Earl Jones in that?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh no, no, not James Earl Jones.
It's been a while since I've
Morgan
seen both.
Freeman. Morgan Freeman was in it. It was Morgan Freeman, not James Earl Jones. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, Ben Affleck was Jack Ryan, and that's the problem. Some of these franchises are just they are all over the place, and so some of them end up being superior endeavors, and some of them are like, okay, no, that doesn't
Is
work.
is John Krasinski playing him in the Amazon series?
Oh, I don't know.
I want to.
I haven't seen the
I want to
Amazon
say there
series at
is.
all. I haven't seen it at all.
He's. Everyone's like, why isn't there an American James Bond? There kind of is. Just nobody
I
talks about him.
I know Chris Pine did Jack Ryan in Shadow Recruit.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that I haven't seen. I saw part of it. I didn't see all of it. That seems like it might have some possible merit. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. But I don't know anything about the Amazon series. Specifically am staying away from it so that I can watch it and see if I actually like it without getting tons of spoilers.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to my number 8. I'll try to
All
make this
right.
quick because, well, just watching the movie kind of speaks for itself. In 1989, James Cameron brought us The Abyss.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a good movie.
Hey, didn't say it was a bad movie.
That's a
And
very good movie.
the effects for it are absolutely stunning.
They are.
It doesn't get much better than that when it comes to water movies, right? But if I'm going to be critical, I will say that it started falling apart for me probably around the introduction of the military characters. Seemed very dude bro-ish. We went from this kind of finesse of acting and jumped right into the hammer.
Mm.
Again, not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying for me that's why it's, even though one of the most impressive looking movies, a killer story, that's why it fell to my number 8 spot. Even though a lot of people out there, and I'm sure at Skid Comics and your hate, will think that it's way too down, way too low on the list. But what can you say about a movie that achieves such a high level of technical expertise from 1989 of all years? Chris Elliott was good in this. Chris Elliott.
Yeah, it's funny.
Suddenly we got people, oh, he's the guy from Get a Life. Now he's in a good movie. It's a far cry from Cabin Boy. Also not on the list, but a great water movie. Just saying.
Yeah, that is. You're right. I completely agree.
Totally forgot about Cabin Boy. So that's my number 8.
Okay, well, my number 8 is the only animated movie on my list. It is Disney's Moana. And I thought long and hard about this movie before I actually added it to my list. Like, do I really love it for being at sea? And the answer is yes, actually, I really do love it for being at sea. Um, because the central premise of Moana is her basically taking a huge chance by leaving the island paradise that she lives in, which in by no means do I sort of sometimes feel like that no not at all. That's not why I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years. I just live here and I'm poor. Um, but the but the idea of Moana being at sea and finding everything that she needs at sea is one of those resonating themes that I really love about films at sea, about nautical movies. There is something about embracing the water itself that kind of opens up brand new doors. And just as both as a tale of Polynesia, and as a tale of sort of multicultural. I mean, Maui is in it. It kind of makes me happy to see, but it also ticks all the boxes of reasons that I like watching movies that have this kind of theme to them, the nautical theme to them. Also, I don't know how you get past the music in Moana with Lin Manuel and not feel so inspired to do something great. It's just I can't listen to this soundtrack and not feel absolutely uplifted. So there's another secret bonus reason for loving this movie. So there you go. Moana.
That's your number 8, huh?
Indeed.
You want to know something funny?
Yeah. What is it?
My number 7, Moana. Basically for everything you just said. Plus, let's not forget this is a heroic female lead that does not do this for some sort of toxic relationship.
Right, there's no love interest.
It's
Despite what Maui thinks.
It's just adventure. For the sake of adventure, as far as, getting down to the nitty gritty. And I miss stories like that because they're so few and far between. Everyone seems to think there's got to be some sort of love interest, right?
Right,
Instead of
right.
just love of family, love of home. You know, that counts as love. If you can have love without it being romantic,
Yep.
and that's one of my favorite things about Moana. Is they gave little girls, little boys, somebody to look up to, and she wasn't in distress. She's not the one that needed saving, I should say. She's a true heroine through and through, and words right. She didn't need no man
Yeah,
there.
right. And I have to say, just real quick as an aside to that, that as a matter of fact, she actually really gave Maui back purpose, which is sort of an inspiring piece because if you know anything about the Polynesian legends of Maui, Maui's a trickster, and it takes a lot to sort of make Maui seem like he has not goodness, because it's not that, it's but, the intent, that really inspired intent behind it. I feel like Moana is both for the reason that you just said about not having the romance part, but also because when I hate this cheesy line, but the real hero is you, that's the thing that Moana brings out. The real hero is you. And I love that. I absolutely love it.
I got 3 kids, and being able to watch this with them and show them a story of someone that's going to go take action, do what needs to get done is very heartening,
Yeah,
and
agreed.
that's why it made my list.
Well, my number 7 is a movie that I touched on, I believe, a couple weeks ago. I don't remember in what context, but I do remember talking about it. It's called Underwater. It stars Kristen Stewart, and Underwater was made in 2020, I think. I think it was 2020. It is uh it is kind of uh eldritch underwater kind of movie. It's scary. It's very scary. I liked it because okay, first of all, one of the hardest parts about filming, or no, I shouldn't say, well, filming yes, but one of the hardest parts about implying to the audience that you're in danger when you're underwater is doing it in a way that makes you feel mortal peril without being uh without being so over the top that it's that it becomes impossible to find a way out. And this movie basically just says from the get-go, you're all going to die. And I feel kind of like that sets the tone for everything that happens afterwards, and it lets us process all of the truly horrible things that are about to happen. Like, we don't really have to. I mean, in my mind, I knew that they weren't going to escape. And I never once felt like I needed to root for anyone to escape. I just needed to figure out what was going on. And that made the movie so incredible to enjoy. So that's my pick. It's not. Underwater is definitely also not a movie to watch with kids. It's not The Abyss. It is not lighthearted. It is extremely dark. But the monsters in this movie are, man, they are so good. I mean, I really, really liked them. I know they're not perfect VFX, but they are epically done. I mean, they really feel like sea creatures, and they absolutely feel Lovecraftian. I think that maybe that's better. They feel very Lovecraftian. So I was very impressed with it. So Underwater, Kristen Stewart, 2022, awesome movie. That's my number 7.
And for the first time tonight, a movie that I had not, at least actively heard of.
Hmm.
So far, I think I'm doing pretty good with your picks.
Yeah.
My number 6 is one that is definitely one you can watch with the kids because it's a animated feature from this year. A new movie on the list? What?
I know it. I know it.
Okay, let's see if you can guess what it is.
Sea Beast.
It is the Sea Beast.
Yeah.
What can I say? I was so impressed with this movie when it debuted. I absolutely loved it, from the short little hero to the monster or the beast hunter that uh, you know turns out not a total tool. He just didn't know any better. It reminds you of, I don't know, being able to talk to that toxic uncle at Thanksgiving and make him see, oh, maybe I have been a racist douchebag. Yeah, that's what I equate it to when he slowly learns that the things that he was taught, the things that he believes, weren't actually the things that happened, and the fact that they take this tale of a girl and her beast and kind of subvert it with this what would you say, like anti class uh, subtext, even though
Oh,
it's not very
yeah.
thinly veiled at all. But
Absolutely.
as my kids said when they're watching Eat the Rich, right? It's like, yeah, it's kind of what they're doing, almost literally.
I think Sea Beast is also, first of all, it's an upside down uh, Moby Dick tale. It's a very upside down Moby Dick tale.
Hmm.
But secondly, Sea Beast reminds, I think, it's supposed to be a reminder that, first of all, kids can have a voice and that kids can be right. That sometimes seeing into the world requires you to see it through children, not around children or because of children. Sometimes you can actually process things in a way that you maybe didn't and couldn't through a child's perspective. And that was truly magical because sometimes we not only don't see things that way, but we also make very snap and harsh judgments about kids that maybe see things from a different perspective, and we just immediately go, no, that can't possibly be
Yeah,
the way
very
that it
dismissive.
is. Yes. And I loved the way that she was basically as tenacious as she needed to be in order to change everybody's minds, and that was pretty amazing.
You're absolutely right when it comes to kids. Not only, let's put it this way: kids look at the world through an unfiltered lens. It's not until parents and adults, we'll say adults in kids' lives, start putting these lenses on kids that make them see things a different way.
Right.
So if you excuse me, if you want to get an unfiltered look at the world, you ask a young kid, "What's
Yep.
that?" And they will just tell you what they see without any predisposition to anything. Just, what's that? That's a cloud. Does it look like it's going to rain? I don't know. That's kids. And
It is.
I work with kids. I have kids, and I, you know what? Maybe I will toot the old horn here a little bit, but I get told pretty regularly that the rapport that I have with kids is pretty good. And when you work with kids, you kind of got to have that. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos, because that's the other thing kids are good at: chaos.
Oh yeah.
So, someone asked me, what, how actually, how do I build this, with the kids that I work with my own kids, because people people think that hey, I seem to be doing a pretty good job. And I say, well, first, listen to them. They'll tell you what they need. And it's clear cut. They need something, they'll tell you. And you can either give them what they need or explain to them why they can't have it. And second, respect them. And I know, right? Respect children? What are you talking about? They're children. They don't deserve respect. No, everybody deserves respect. And I think the Sea Beast really brings out that point that just because someone's a kid doesn't mean they shouldn't be listened to and doesn't mean they don't deserve respect. And you know what? If you just do those two things, you'll find any kind of interaction with not just children, but anybody will go a lot smoother. And yeah, I think it's a great one of the many great lessons of Sea Beast, and that's why I've been my list.
Awesome. Very awesome. Well, my number 6 does not need any respect. In fact, there are some things that I really don't respect about this movie, but I also seriously enjoyed it a lot. I can't really explain the actual discrepancy, but I'll try. It is from 2016. It's called The Shallows. Blake Lively stars as a surfer who is supposed to be a really experienced surfer and is going out to this one sort of secret location. She goes out there, and on the way out, she passes a whale carcass. Look, I've lived in Hawaii for more years than decades. I just say decades. And yeah, there's certain things that you just know if you're an experienced surfer that you do not cross the line with, and one of them is anything dead in the water is an immediate go back to shore. Do not collect $200. It is just absolutely a big telling thing. But anyway, putting that aside, the stuff that happens in this film is crazy, just absolutely crazy. Like, there are too many sort of super awesome uh B movie-ish tropes that I absolutely loved. So I put this into my list because The Shallows kind of does the whole, hey, I'm a mean shark, and you don't really assign it necessarily a personality until maybe three-fourths of the way into the movie, and then you realize, oh no, this shark has a grudge. And it's really good. I don't find it fictionally like there's any reality in the fiction, but as a fiction and as a B movie, it really has a nice spot in my heart. I really, really liked it. Um, just so that you know, The Shallows actually won out over The Meg because I liked the performance of Blake Lively with, again, man versus nature, as opposed to man and technology and all of these. And like it starts feeling preachy in The Meg, but The Shallows whittles it down and distills the story to sort of its finest little essence, and you get a real horror kind of story, a thriller, I guess, more or less. But it's horrible for her. That really requires her to build on every single sense that she has. So I guess for the same reason that I liked All Is Lost, I also liked The Shallows. Although All Is Lost is a better movie, The Shallows is a more enjoyable and watchable movie to me. So that's my number 6. What is your number 6?
My number 6 was Sea Beast.
Oh, did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry. Number 5. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ask you to repeat your number 6.
I love Sea Beast so much.
We're gonna do it again.
My number 5. I kind of wish I'd seen The Shallow so I could chime in, but it does sound interesting. But my number 5 is one that I thought I would steal from your playbook.
Hmm.
And maybe you didn't add it because it might be considered too water adjacent,
Oh,
but there's a good bit of stuff in the water, and that's why I added it. 2008, Hayao Miyazaki, Ponyo.
oh, very good choice. Excellent choice.
Talk about a story of unlikely friendships. It's full of magic. It's full of hope. It is. Kind of lost my mic there for a second. I thought, okay, we are working.
You're back. Yep.
I love Ponyo. I have not seen a ton of Studio Ghibli movies, but this is one of them, and it is beautiful. Never have I seen an animated film where it seems like the water at times is one of the more animated, one of the more lively characters
Yes.
as it moves around and brings Ponyo. And every time I think I want to say the child's name, I drift away like I'm gonna butcher this. So do you remember the name of the kid?
Who are you talking about?
The kid in Ponyo?
You, you're not talking about Ponyo? Oh, you're talking about Koichi.
Yeah, yeah.
Koichi. Yeah, Koichi.
See, I always think I'm just gonna, you know, butcher any of these names, and I really don't want to do that. So, yeah, Ponyo's my number 5.
I'm sorry. It's not Koichi. What am I saying? It's Sasuke.
That's it. That's it.
It's Sasuke. I'm sorry. It's been, first of all, it's been a while since I've seen Ponyo, but secondly, I have in my head all the cast of characters, and yeah, no, it's Sasuke. And Sasuke Sasuke in some ways is sort of quintessential Studio Ghibli because many Studio Ghibli characters that are under the age of 6 or 7, and we know that Sasuke is only supposed to be like 5. They're so precocious. They're absolutely just so precocious. And when he starts to name off all of the Devonian sea animals, it's just sort of like amazing. Like, but it's not out of the realm of like, oh yeah, you know what? I've known some 5-year-olds that know every single dinosaur from the Cretaceous period to the Jurassic period to the whatever. I like it's just it is absolutely a thing, but it makes it feel so, I don't know, something charming about it. Also, the other thing that I really love about that movie, which is another hallmark of Studio Ghibli movies, is the use of onomatopoeia. It's constant. And there's also the other part, which you were talking about with the water, where the water is done by vocalization sounds. So the water itself is not a sound effect, it's a vocalization of the sound effect.
I did not
And
know that.
it's absolutely stellar. It's really stellar. The sound mixing in Ponyo is really, really, really amazing. There's only 2 other Studio Ghibli movies that I like more for that very thing. So good choice. Very good choice. Also, Liam Neeson as Fujimoto is amazing. I love his voice. That's
He had a
Ponyo's
very
dad.
particular set of skills.
Yes, and I did really love him as Ponyo's dad. Good choice. Very good choice.
Thank you. You're number 5, Jen.
My number 5 is, okay, this is a movie I know that very few people have seen. I'm so sorry to bring it up, but I really love it and feel like it deserves a spot on my list here. It is called The Admiral. It is a 2015 movie about the formation of the Dutch military. It's actually a foreign film. You can watch it dubbed, but it's really better to read the subtitles. This movie really sort of made me realize how little I knew about the Dutch Navy I've always known that it was a powerhouse, but there's so much political machinations behind it, and yet the power of the Dutch Navy at this time was absolutely positively behind the sea captains, who the sea captains were, what they were able to do, the blockade ideas, the understanding the manpower that it takes to captain these ships, and then understanding how to allocate that to the best possible advantage is just something that worked so well. This movie is so rich in history, and I would be lying if I didn't say that to me ship porn is a thing. I love ships. And the Admiral has the most amazing ship shots. I know that they recreated some and they did actual practical sets. And then I know that some stuff was CGI. But I have to say that even the stuff that was CGI was brilliantly done, just absolutely beautiful. So that is my choice. There's a battle that this is based on. I won't sort of get into it, um but it's truly amazing for its both its historical reconstruction and also its sort of beauty in just the backdrops and the scenery and the costuming. It's really, really, really beautiful. Also, it didn't star, but it had Rutger Hauer in it, who this was one of the last films that he did before he died. So I also really appreciate it for that. So there you go.
Okay, you opened up a can of worms on my end here. No, I have not seen the movie, but when you use words like ship porn, you should know I'm going to have comments, or at the
Comment
very least,
away.
questions like your ship porn. Um,
Yes.
do you like big decks?
I like all decks.
Okay,
No
okay.
deck is too small for me.
And I
If you have a
prefer
dinghy, I'm actually happy.
you just say the important thing is how it handles on the water or the motion of the ocean.
Yeah, it's the motion of the ocean. There you go.
Yeah.
It's the way that yeah. It's not how big your sails are. It's the amount of wind in your sails.
Okay, okay. And this this particular film, is it all about booty?
No, actually, and this is the reason I think that most people didn't see it. It is definitely a very, it's one of those historical recreation movies that, like, if you're really into that kind of stuff, you're gonna watch it.
Hmm.
Uh, but if you're not into it, yeah, you're probably gonna go, this is terrible. It even has Charles Dance, who is, the dad Tyrion Lannister. That's him, and it
Okay.
even has him in it as King Charles. Um, like it's actually really good, but but the subject matter is like dry enough that unless you really wanted to watch it, you're not going to find like a ton of like, oh my God. Unlike the next, which I'll get to after you're done with your number four, unlike my number four, which I feel like people would watch because it is very action and adventure kind of in its inception. So there you go.
Okay, I'm done.
I'm a historian. No, I'm not a historian. I shouldn't say that. I'm a wannabe historian. Underneath everything else that makes me geeky and dorky, my love for history and especially certain eras of history really propels my love of speculative narrative fiction as well. So when I'm watching movies, if you're going to cater to any one of those, I'm going to be like, yeah, this is great. So there you go.
Okay, I think we learned something today.
Maybe too much. I'm sorry if that was TMI. But moving right along, I hear that you have an awesome number four pick.
And I think some people are going to be mad that it's only number four
Uh oh.
because it's one of those movies that's considered a classic, legendary, if you will.
Oh boy.
1975 told us don't go in the water. Steven Spielberg brought us Jaws. That's right. Jaws, the quintessential summer flick about a quasi unstoppable shark attacking the townspeople of Amity Island and the ineptitude of the local everybody.
Even the dog catcher.
The absolute idiocy of the people in charge as they're being told flat out, hey guys, there's a shark out there. Maybe we should close the beaches. They're like, nah, keep them open. It's not going to be that bad. Next thing you know, chomp, 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 chomp. Yeah. The big shark that's killing people stuck around to kill more people. And I swear to you, from things that I've read, because I wasn't alive back then, it caused, what's one step below a panic? A concern?
Mm.
Yeah. People saw this movie and they're like, the beach? No, I'm good.
They were very concerned and reserved. Just as a quick anecdote, I saw Jaws when I was very little, and I was afraid to go swimming in the lake. So, there's that.
I'm pretty sure there's some B movie called Lake Jaws somewhere.
My cousins were absolutely merciless, telling me that sharks could swim in fresh water. So,
see, that's family.
It was terrible. God, it was merciless. Oh boy.
So, in a nutshell, Jaws is about the hunt for this shark, and as some people would put it, the real men that go after him.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
It's full of great lines. It inspired great filmmakers. Thinking of you, Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Salsa shark. Yeah, that's a line from Clerks. So what it did for pop culture is absolutely undeniable. It basically single-handedly created the summer blockbuster. It was that movie that you had to see.
Yep. And what was funny about that was apparently at the time, it also was Benchley's sort of like everybody was reading the book at the same time too, in a really similar way to when Jurassic Park came out. All of a sudden, everybody was reading Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park, which was really, really interesting because we don't have a ton of that anymore. Where the movie is like, propels the book into some kind of superstardom. There are notable exceptions, but it's not quite the same anymore, which is kind of interesting. Also, Peter Benchley was just amazing.
The first one that comes to mind, other than Jurassic Park and Jaws, is, of course, The Godfather.
Yep.
And if you haven't seen The Offer, check that out on it's on Paramount Plus. An excellent series about how The Godfather got made and working with Mario Puzo to get this thing turned into a movie, and he's like, I don't know how to write a script, but I want to write a script. I'm like, but you don't know how to write a script. It's like, details. Next thing you know, Oscars, right? And I'd say I can't really think of many other examples of the book and the movie, kind of coinciding and kind of lifting each other up. Harry Potter was already a thing before the movies came out. That's why when the movies were being made, especially the first one, Chris Columbus attached to direct, the casting of Harry Potter was like big news. Like, they found their Harry.
Right.
Yeah. So that was already kind of in full swing. But you're right. Jaws, The Godfather, and Jurassic Park, Three properties where the book and the movies elevated each other in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
One would see, or one would have one, and then they would naturally gravitate towards the other. But yeah, and let's not forget that this was the movie that turned Steven Spielberg into Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, superstardom.
One movie in, hits it out of the park, becomes a legend.
All of a sudden, he's directing E.T., you know.
Empire of the Sun,
Totally crazy.
great movie. Jaws, great careers spawned off it, and that's why it made my number 4.
All right. Well, my number 4 is also one that probably nobody has ever seen. And honestly, I don't actually. I care that you didn't see it because I think you should see it. But in terms of my fandom, uh, it is so important to me. It's called Horatio Hornblower. It specifically it's Horatio Hornblower the Duel. This is an AMC production that was aired for AMC back when AMC was still making movies. They don't really do that very much anymore. Anyway, it is the retelling of Horatio Hornblower, which was actually a movie back in I I can't remember if it was like 1950 or if it was 19 when was the original Captain Hornblower? I feel like it was like 1951. I saw it recently on Turner Classic Movies and it was still really good. That one has I want to say it has Gregory Peck in it. I think it does. I think Hornblower is Gregory Peck. And it's good. It's very good. But the AMC version is a little bit more updated. The nautical adventures feel a little bit more high stakes. It is truly a great series of movies. This one I chose because it sort of launches Horatio Hornblower's career. To anyone who doesn't know, C.S. Forester was a amazing writer who also wrote speculative historical fiction. But his fiction was really deeply mired in the details of everything. And from the Napoleonic nautical version of things, I don't think you get better than C.S. Forester. So, in this also the other thing that which again I just have this like personal connection to it. I actually went to a Horatio Hornblower convention. um Absolutely loved it. We toured a huge ship. We toured. I forgot the name of the ship now. It's one of the big ships that's in San Diego. That's kind of like at permanent dry dock, and it's basically a museum for a World War II ship. It is kind of cool. But we also went on the Star of India, and then I also got to go on the ship that was the one from Master and Commander, the one that they repurposed to be the HMS Surprise. And they happened to be doing some renovations and stuff, and so I picked up an old piece of wood and I stuck it in my backpack and I was like, ooh, souvenir. So I have a little piece of movie prop history in my house at the moment. Sorry, guys. Didn't think you were going to need it. But anyway, I loved this movie. I have an absolute affinity for the Horatio Hornblower epic saga. And no matter how many times this gets retold, the story always carries it. So even when I, see kind of some lame retellings of it, the story always is able to carry it somehow. And that's why it made my number 4.
Something about that title sounds incredibly familiar.
Captain Horatio Hornblower? Or
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it.
it's pretty famous. Horatio Hornblower is one of the most iconic um, naval history pieces of fiction that there is. And the way that C.S. Forester sets everything out makes for an incredibly easy to portray in film story, because all you really need to do is just follow the narrative. I mean, it the story works for itself. It's great when they do adaptations that kind of add little things, and especially as we move forward in better and better VFX. But even when you go back and watch the original with Gregory Peck, you still feel like the stakes are very high. You never feel like, oh, this is just some old cheesy, like piratey movie or something. I mean, it's actually very well told. Very well told.
Okay.
So there
I
you go.
have to check that out. I actually searched it up and now I have it on my queue. So that's one I am going to look at because I like these things.
I think you might actually really like that one too. So, well, we're into the top 3. I'm excited.
I'm also excited, especially to hear your reactions about what my top 3 are.
Okay.
Okay, number 3. It's considering the director unconventional as in traditional terms, but to me, it is one of my favorite water movies. I'm talking about 2004, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Hmm.
It is a wonderfully deadpan movie, as most Wes Anderson films are, about a, would it be safe to call him a nautical adventurer?
I would. Yeah, I would definitely say that.
He's on the hunt for the jaguar shark that killed his partner. And everyone thinks he's nuts. So as he's preparing for his latest documentary to go after this shark, adventure happens on the high seas. Now, story aside, which by the way is absurdly hilarious, again, as Wes Anderson does, the cinematography of this is very interesting to me. The how would you put it? The ship cut in half
Oh
to
yeah.
do the tracking shots of people walking from one end to the other, climbing up and down. Beautiful, and not something that I was expecting because honestly, before I saw this, I think my only Wes Anderson experiences were Rushmore and the Royal Tenenbaums. I've of course seen more since, but The Life Aquatic stars a wonderful Bill Murray in the titular role and is filled with all sorts of, I'm just going to say, zany adventures.
True.
Pirates, you know, they, they, oh, I wish I remember what the term they used was when they liberated some equipment from a rival oceanographer to help in their quest. Everything about this movie is wonderful and has a I'd say it's the B story, an interesting father son, B story to kind of bring everything together and make it incredibly memorable. He says vaguely.
You know what? I'm not. uh, Boy, this one's tough. Um, I don't dislike Wes Anderson, but I find his stuff to be hit and miss. So sometimes I really love it, sometimes I am so annoyed by it that like it's hard for me not to leave the theater. That's how polar reactions kind of occur with me and him. But this particular one was actually really good. And I think the reason that it was so good was for the reasons that you mentioned. It is absolutely a cinematographic masterpiece. I mean, it's hard to express how perfectly visual the story is until you see it and then go, oh God, everything just lines up so perfectly with what they're doing. And there is something about Wes Anderson that really is kind of brilliant with in his ability to kind of like almost take a storyboard and make a storyboard movie.
Hmm.
And it's a crazy skill, but it's really good. So
It's
I
a
think
really
that was a good choice.
it's a really tight, it's almost 2 hours. Yeah, it's really tight script. Wes Anderson, Noah Baumbach, and definitely worth checking out if any of you have not seen it yet. So it's my
I,
number three.
good job, very good job. All right, well, I couldn't have a top 10 without having some movie about pirates. But I really struggled with this one because most movies about pirates are stupid. And I actually kind of low key hate them. I watch them all, but I kind of hate them anyway. But for the sake of, hey, do you need to have a pirate movie in your list? Yeah, I do. I chose Cutthroat Island for my number three.
Interesting.
Now, Cutthroat Island is a 1995 production. It stars Gina Davis, who I absolutely adore. It also has quite a notable cast, including Matthew Modine and who's the other guy that's like super famous? I forgot. There's another guy in there that's super famous. And and it really is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is truly a terrible movie. Um but it's so fun. It's violent, it's sticky, it's messy. It's not what you maybe expect out of a pirate movie, but it's terrible in the way that everybody gets treated and what they do and how they come out of it. Nobody comes out seeming like they are actually very good guys. And I think for that reason, for that very moral ambiguity reason, I actually enjoyed it. Also, there's so much action in this movie. It's real, unrealistic, ridiculous action, but no more unrealistic or over the top than Pirates of the Caribbean, which would have been in this spot had I not thought, no, actually Cutthroat Island is maybe a better nautical story than Pirates of the Caribbean, where I don't even think people actually sail in Pirates of the Caribbean. I feel like it's actually like there actually are motors on their boats. I don't know. I just don't see them sail. But in Cutthroat Island, there was a lot of actually good ship shots, and there you go. I love my ship shots. So that's my number three, Cutthroat Island.
And you're not a fan of motorboating in your ship porn.
I'm really not. You gotta be all sails all the time. Yeah,
All natural.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful canvas. That's the way to win my heart. There you go.
Well, I guess that brings us to my number two. Great choice with Cutthroat Island, by the way.
Yeah, you've seen it,
Interesting
right?
choice.
You've seen it.
I saw it many years ago,
Cool.
so I'm glad to finally see. Saw it. My number two.
You're number two.
We're going back to the animated route. 2003. Finding Nemo.
I was hoping you were going to pick that because that was on my list, and then I had to take it off because I didn't have enough space.
One of the rules that I gave myself was if there's more than one in a series, I'm only going to pick one. And no offense to Finding Dory, but Finding Nemo is the better movie. It's an adventure of a father looking for his son and everything, anything he's willing to do to make sure that happens after losing him, thanks to some entitled brats and jerk dentists. And that's neither here nor there. But the story opens with tragedy as this this family is in shambles after a particularly disastrous lunch. And that leaves Marlin and Nemo alone, the only family that they have. But of course, as children often do, Nemo got older, had to go to school, and children, as I stated before, are known for their impulsive behavior and, you know, they tend to get a mind of their own and do things that maybe they shouldn't. So Nemo wanders off, gets picked up, leaving Marlin alone, lost, because he lost literally the only other being in his life. So he sets out on his quest to find the child. And along the way, he finds that maybe it's because of the panic that was induced, maybe it's because it was just out of necessity, but he found himself being a little more open, not only to help from people, but to friendship. And personally, that is a message that strikes particularly close to home with me, being a single dad, and for the longest time saying, no, I don't need help. I got this. And carrying the weight of all of that responsibility solo until finally I said, you know what? Maybe it's not a bad thing to get help from friends, to get help from family. And that's what Marlin does. He meets Dory. He meets the I gotta remember his name, the turtle.
Crush.
Crush. And finds himself with these new life experiences on this incredible journey. I'm not going to spoil it, even though you already know what happens. But I will say that as a parent, Finding Nemo is incredibly satisfying and heartwarming because it really shows what a parent that loves their child will do if something were to happen, and the extreme measures that they would take to bring their kid home.
It also demonstrates why you are not supposed to hold on too tightly, because that just causes your kids to rebel. So don't do that.
Hold on tighter.
Okay. Yeah, hold on tighter. All right. Oh boy. Okay. All right. My number 2 is quite quintessentially a retelling. Not really a retelling. What's it good? An adjacent story to Moby Dick. It's called The Heart of the Sea. It stars Chris Hemsworth, and I didn't pick it just because of Chris Hemsworth, although I could have, because yes, I would watch anything with Chris Hemsworth in it.
Abs.
But in the heart of yeah, you know what? In this movie, no. In this movie, Chris Hemsworth lost something like 30, 40 pounds. I don't know. It was ridiculous. He looked every bit beleaguered as you would expect a man starving on an island to look. It was crazy. But they basically they're on a ship, they're a whaling ship, they're out looking for these huge sperm whales, and catastrophe strikes. The whale, it definitely has its own kind of sentient vengeance. It's actually a really good story, but it's not it's not like the craziness kind of story that Moby Dick is. Still, it requires all of the crew members to be resourceful. Some of them don't make it. Spoilers, spoilers. This movie was directed by Ron Howard, and it is every bit as good as any other Ron Howard movie. I mean, like, it's so well told. And the ship part that's so interesting is all of the they really get into the nooks and crannies of the actual ship itself to show you how they did things, including how they harvested fish, the whale oil, which was not a pretty picture at all. Like, if you don't have a strong stomach, don't watch it. But then, of course, there is the spin where they are shipwrecked because of the whale, and they have to, and basically it becomes a man versus nature story again in a totally different way, but beautifully, beautifully told. Really love this movie. It's the production values are absolutely epic, and it this is one of the few movies on my list that really earned almost exactly what they put into the movie. So clearly people did like it. I really loved it. So that's my number two, In the Heart of the Sea.
And it's directed by Ronnie Howard.
And it is.
Opie?
It was so amazing. I love Ron Howard as a director. I have to say, there's very few things that Ron Howard directs that I don't fall in love with on some, even if it's just on a technicality. I still fall in love with it. So,
The
worth
Cunningham
the
kid?
watch. Yes, the Cunningham kid, the little boy. It's amazing that he grew up to be such an awesome director.
The kid from Gentle Ben's big brother?
Y- What is that? Who he was, really? Okay.
Yeah, Clint Howard was the kid from Gentle Ben.
Oh! I didn't even know that. Wow,
And now you know.
too cool.
Do, 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 do. Sorry, hope we don't get binged for me doing a poor imitation of The More You Know.
Yeah, right. Those vocalizations really come in handy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now we're at the number one.
Yes, we are at the number one. And I can feel the scowl I'm about to get.
Oh no.
Because you mentioned it briefly, and it's my number one.
Uh-oh.
But you're right. No list about water and movies would be complete without mentioning the worst pirate you've ever heard of. But you have heard of me. Now, I had a lot of options here because there are a lot of pirates movies. But
yes, you did.
Keeping to my own rule, I said there can be only one. So that made me try to narrow it down between Black Pearl and World's End. World's End was in contention not because it was better than Black Pearl, but I love the scene where everybody's voting for a new king of the pirates.
Oh, that is good.
and Jack surprises himself by not voting for himself. So there was that. I seriously considered that, but I think it's the one that starts it off, the one that introduces us to Jack Sparrow in 2003 as he's docking his ship from the mast as it sinks into the harbor. And he gets told, "No, you're the worst pirate I've ever heard of." And he's like, "Ah, but you have heard of me." So that immediately sets the tone for what you're about to see. Now, one thing that I think any pirate film has to have is swashbuckling adventure. And the fact that swordplay is not only a prominent part of these movies, the fact that it's a key character trait to one of the characters is beautiful. Just like in the Princess Bride, you got guys that are incredibly well trained with their equipment because for each of them, it is a different aspect of their life. One of them grew up creating the weapons that can be. It's almost like an art form when done correctly, while the other one uses them as a way to stay alive. So they're coming at it from like different angles, but they come together with similar skill sets. Of course, when one's like, "That's against the rules," it's like, "Rules? What do you want about? We're fighting to the death. You're talking about rules." The delicate play between action and adventure, because I do separate the two. The adventure usually involves a lot of running, while the action involves a lot of cannons and, like I said, sword play. Plus the supernatural element of an undead crew on Jack's ship, the Black Pearl, as he tries to get back, putting together it almost seems redundant to say a ragtag group of pirates, but somehow he finds an even more ragger-tagger group of pirates to crew uh, the crew that he's going after his old crew with. I mean, before you could say he had the bad news bears of a pirate crew where they're rough and gruff, and somehow he found the underside of the bottom of the barrel to get more people together to get his ship back. Now, much like you were mentioning before with your ship porn, this I'm not going to go as far to say it looks like they were on, they had motors, because admittedly, I am not an expert on watching ships at sea. I see them very seldom in the movies that I've watched. My favorite, of course, being One-Eyed Willie's ship in The Goonies. Beautiful, beautiful vessel there. But between the Black Pearl and the Endeavor, was it? Seeing these two massive ships sailing is a wondrous sight to behold, and the cinematography does it every bit of justice. Now,
Yeah.
the last thing I'm going to say is I did not see Curse of the Black Pearl in theaters. No, because I thought it's a stupid movie about a stupid ride. How good could that be? And when we talked about the Emmys on TV dinners, which, by the way, everybody should be watching every week on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, 2:30 Hawaiian. We talked about whether or not awards influence whether or not we watch something, right?
Right.
And when the nominations came out for the Academy Awards, and I saw Pirates of the Caribbean getting nomination after nomination, and Johnny Depp getting nominated for this movie based on a Disney ride, that's when I said, fine, I guess I kind of have to check this out. So I did, and here we are. It's my favorite movie set on the water.
Wow.
I'm not going to say it's a deep story by any means, but between the the romance and the action and the revenge and the comedy, it's it's one of those movies that just has everything. It hits all the zones, hits all the quadrants, and it's no surprise that they want to keep making more of them. I just think it's going to be a shame if we don't get more Jack out of all this. So that's my number one.
So I can't say I actually agree with the number one position, but I can agree that it definitely deserves, or most people would definitely put a Pirates of the Caribbean in their top 10 list. I mean, it definitely has had a huge impact um, on people, on entertainment. I mean, there's just no way around it. It really was pretty big. So, and as a franchise, let's face it, your franchises don't continue if they don't make money. And we've had a lot of Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so it clearly is still making money.
Five
So
and a
yeah,
sixth one on the way.
good for them. Good for them. Okay. I my number one choice is is another one of those choices that I feel like maybe most people haven't seen. But if you haven't seen it, this movie is absolutely worth seeing. Yes, long before he was Hannibal, Anthony Hopkins was a ship captain, and his name was Captain Bligh. Captain Bligh was not exactly the best captain. He had some pretty difficult challenges ahead of him, but he also, in much of the richness of this story, which I absolutely love, really felt a sense of overly simplistic, or he had an overly simplistic attitude toward discipline and regimen on a ship full of people that were absolutely not quite ready for that kind of strict well, strict interpretation. Plus, they had been sailing forever and ever and ever. They end up in places like Tahiti, and once they get ashore, have a taste of the sweet island life, which I can attest to is absolutely amazing. Uh, and then they get called back to sea and basically mutiny so that they can go back to the island. It's pretty amazing. Mel Gibson stars as Fletcher Christian. Anthony Hopkins is uh, William Bligh. Laurence Olivier is in this. Daniel Day Lewis is in it. Um, Liam Neeson plays one of the sailors. Really great. Man, Liam Neeson is really making a run in our list here. Um, some really amazing epic performances. One of the reasons that I really, really though want this to be my number one pick is because this is the first movie that I ever saw where the the upside downness of being at sea is on full display. That is, you take a group of people far away from their homes, and what happens? Well, you've got one of two things. Either discipline wins the day, as it does in Horatio Hornblower, or discipline goes awry, as it does on the Bounty. And the story of the HMS Bounty is so notorious and so wide and far heard of, um, that it kind of built its own narrative, mood. There's so much around it that just feels like it's rife with, ooh, when's this going to happen? Ooh, when's this going to happen? And through it all, I have to say that the performances that I actually liked best, although Mel Gibson's Fletcher Christian is a good character, and truly, everybody loves to root for Fletcher Christian. It's the role of Anthony Hopkins as Captain Bligh that really makes this movie something to behold. He never wavers from the fact that he really believes he's doing the right thing. I mean, he really believes that somehow his sense of order and his sense of discipline are the only ways that you keep people together at sea. And to a degree, he's right. And again, if you go down to some of my other choices on the list, order on ships is an incredibly important thing, but he takes it to the extreme so that, yes, you're right, you do need order and discipline, but it's his view of order and discipline that just throw everything in the upside down realm. One of the other reasons that I really love this movie is because they do not glamorize the fact that being at sea was hard. It was not a quick jaunt across the ocean to go wherever you were going to go. You were gone for months and months and months. You were facing the kind of hardships that few of us will ever face. And it was truly daunting. And it both made people bind together in brotherly, kind of like, yeah, okay, you're my shipmates, but you're also something more than that. And it also drove people apart. So for that, I give this movie a billion stars. I absolutely love it. And again, Anthony Hopkins, I don't feel like Anthony Hopkins can do any wrong, but in this movie, he does everything right.
Why haven't I seen this?
I don't know. It's called The Bounty. Um, it was released in 1984. So you definitely, like, I saw it on Turner Classic Movies, and I couldn't believe it was even a thing. Also, one other quick mention: the ships. The ship, the HMS Bounty, is gorgeous, just gorgeous. All of the shots of that ship, it's an actual ship that they used for a recreation, are absolutely breathtaking. So
God, it looks amazing. I'm looking at some screenshots of it now.
it's unbelievably good, just absolutely unbelievably good. Really, really liked it. Definitely deserves a number one spot.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that one out, adding to watch list.
I'm so happy that I can expand your watch list, Josh.
I feel like with my list, I've lost your respect.
You didn't lose my respect. It just wouldn't be my choice. That's all.
Well, how about we do a quick recap before I get to next week's topic?
All right.
What was your top 10 list for tonight, Jen?
Okay. Top 10. 10. All is Lost. 9. The Hunt for Red October. 8. Moana. 7. Underwater. 6. The Shallows. 5. The Admiral. 4. Captain Horatio Hornblower. The Duel. Number 3. HMS Defiant. Oh no, wait. It wasn't HMS Defiant. I'm sorry. Cutthroat Island. Oops, see, I made too many changes to my list.
Mm-hmm.
Cutthroat Island. Cutthroat Island. Number 2. The Heart of the Sea. And number 1. The Bounty.
Very good list. I assume.
I think it was a great list. So tell us yours.
My number 10 was Ghost Ship. My number 9, Aquaman. Number 8, The Abyss. Number 7, Moana. Number 6, Sea Beast. Number 5, Ponyo. Number 4, Jaws. Number 3, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Number 2, Finding Nemo. And number 1, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Sweet.
So next week.
What are we doing next week?
Next week, I'm going to take us to the end. It's the end of the world.
Ooh.
We're not talking post-apocalypse. No. We're not talking about how humanity digs itself out of whatever disaster has befallen it. No, we're talking about the actual act of the disaster. We're talking about movies that bring about the end of days.
Ooh.
Apocalypse movies. apocalypse porn, whatever you want to call it.
Is that a real thing? I don't think that's a real thing, but okay. Maybe
I
for
think
some people.
Roland Emmerich made a career out of it.
Yeah, I might know a couple preppers that might. Yeah, also. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
So, do you think you could put together a list of your favorite 10 movies about the end of the world?
Honestly, I think I could, because some, just to throw it out there, some movies about the end of the world are completely out of man's ability to control it. So, lots of good stuff there.
I just hope we don't wind up with like 10 asteroid movies or 20 asteroid movies.
Is that the only way to end the world? I don't think so.
I think we can get more creative than that.
Man is so devious. I'm pretty sure we can.
But speaking of creative, I hear you got some creative things going on over at moviesandmeals.com.
So, moviesandmeals.com is still in full swing. We are still doing our countdown to Halloween. Lots of good stuff. In fact, we were supposed to do a big kitchen reveal last weekend, but got pulled off to this weekend. So we'll be doing a bunch of Halloween recipes for this weekend. And also join me, as Josh said, on Thursdays when we do TV dinners. This week we are going to do the reality series, and love them or hate them, everyone has an opinion on this. I'm actually very surprised at the number of people that had either very strong yes I love them or very strong yes I hate them reactions to this, and I'm really excited to get into that with my guest. So join us on Thursday night, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time.
What about the people that are like, yes, I hate them, but here's the one I watch?
Exactly. That's usually what people will say. Or people will say, I love reality TV, except there's this one show that I just absolutely hate. Oh my God. It was really surprising. It was really surprising. Loved it though.
I think it's going to be a pretty fun show tomorrow.
I do too. I do too. We got lots to talk about.
On Friday, we're doing the podcast episode number 105. 105 episodes of the podcast this week. It's all about Kevin Smith's View Askew-niverse.
Oh.
Both Brandon and I have seen Clerks 3, so we're going to talk about it. There will be spoilers. But
Nice.
We're also going to talk about all of the movies that brought us to this point in the story. And yes, they all include Jay and Silent Bob. So that's what's going on this Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Very cool. I can't wait.
Got to stop unplugging the mic.
It is causing some awkward pauses, but you know,
Little
that could
bit.
just be me. I don't know. You know.
So how about we wrap things? I got to get a closing tagline for the show.
Yeah, we need something to cinch everything up and make it sound like it was an exceptional list. I don't know what that would be, but I'll try to come up with something amazing.
In the meantime, how about I close this out like this? Thank you all for joining us here tonight. I hope you enjoyed our list. Thank you, Jen, for putting together once again a more amazing list than I have.
Thank you, Josh, for both feeding my ego and also for being such a good co-host. I have a great time on this every single week.
Me
will
too.
see you next week. I'll see you next week.
Have a great list.